Sure. So now we'll get to our guest of the day here today is Abbi Kruse. Abbi is the founder and executive director of The Playing Field here in Madison, Wisconsin. The Playing Field serves children from a wide range of socioeconomic backgrounds, including those experiencing homelessness, alongside those from far more advantaged families. She is passionate about providing high quality early education and care to children from all backgrounds and has extensive experience working with diverse populations. Abbi has served in a variety of roles during her 25-year career in early childhood education. These roles have included teacher, instructional coach, and administrator. In addition, Abbi has served as a part-time faculty member at Madison College, and she is a conscious discipline certified instructor. All right, Abbi, so thanks for joining us today, and I will turn it over to you.
Thanks for having me, everyone. I'm going to share my screen and just take this time to introduce you to our school family. We have a unique model for early care and education that I'm going to share with you. And so I broke it down into the ABCs of our model. The first one is access, providing high quality early education to children in the context of our community. So what that means is we include children who are from very disadvantaged families right along children from very advantaged homes. I always like to say we want to have the kind of program that any parent would choose for their child, and then make that care accessible to children from a wide range of backgrounds. And our school family does include children who are currently or have recently been homeless. And then bonding, which actually I kind of cheated on this one because it's actually attachment, but it didn't start, I didn't want to have two A's, so I called it bonding. But our model is really built on the importance of attachment to early brain development, but also in building resiliency for children who have been impacted by early trauma. And then conscious discipline, which I'll tell you a little bit about, but conscious discipline is our focus on social emotional learning, on problem solving. And so that's kind of the ABCs of our model. It's what makes us different. And I moved to Madison, I think 16 or 17 years ago. I didn't have a Wisconsin teaching certificate, and I kind of wandered into a childcare center for the first time in my life. And it was bleak. There was dust in the window. The staff didn't even seem to really like children. I'm not really sure why they worked there. I saw children mocked. I saw children mistreated. And my first thought was, dear Lord, I've got to get out of this place. I cannot work here. But I just couldn't leave those kids behind. So within just a short time, I was the director of that center, and I fired almost everyone immediately. But we got the center cleaned up. I had my family up there on the weekends, painting, carrying out garbage. The center was accredited through the city of Madison, and the unfortunate effect of that was that all of the low-income children were displaced. And all of their spots were taken by families who were more affluent, who could afford to put a deposit down and wait for a spot. And so that was a pretty disheartening thing to have happen. And I had a big journey after that and lots of different opportunities. But really what I kept seeing across the community was disparity. There was a huge gap between what was available to families based on what they could afford. And honestly, there were a lot of childcare programs that I wouldn't want to leave my pets in all day. And so I did the math. If you have a child who attends childcare from birth to age 5, it could be in excess of 10,000 hours. And you think about the 10,000 hours during the time that the brain is rapidly developing, the child is deciding what kind of person he is, how he views his relationships with other people, how he sees the world, if the world is a safe place. And during that 10,000 hours, we have children in pretty awful situations. So that's why it matters to me. That's why it's been my passion to create a childcare center that does provide access to children to a place where anybody would want to have their child. And I've put my money where my mouth is. My grandchildren have attended the playing field. And I will say that it's been a benefit to them as well, to see that maybe not everybody has the same advantages they have and the same opportunities they have, to have a diverse group of friends. My hope is that for children like my grandchildren, they have more empathy and less racial bias. So that's kind of our model in a nutshell. So this is the original site. It's located on Mineral Point Road. It's actually housed inside Bethany United Methodist Church, where the UW Preschool Lab was for about 20 years. I was the director of that program when Dean Shim of the School of Human Ecology decided to close the program and I stayed behind and started the playing field. This is actually our 6th year of being open in that location. So a third of our families pay full tuition. They pay tuition just like they would pay at any other high quality program. A third of our families receive scholarships. So those are families that qualify for a child care subsidy, but even with that subsidy, they could never access a high quality program. For most of the folks that fall into that category, they would get what I call the bargain basement center. These are folks that would choose to have a center that maybe they would have a $5 payment a week, versus if they went to a high quality center, they would have $125 a week copay. So that's kind of our scholarship. We raise the difference so that those families don't have to pay a high copay. And then a third of our families are funded by an early Head Start grant that prioritizes children that are experiencing homelessness. So that's kind of what our enrollment model looks like and how we maintain that very diverse enrollment group. So really what we're doing is we're breaking barriers. We're knocking down the barriers that low income families face. And obviously cost is a huge one, but transportation is also an issue. So we have a bus at our West Side location or our Midtown location. We transport children from shelters. We've picked up kids at hotels. We've picked up kids that have slept in their vehicles overnight. So transportation, our bus goes all over the city twice a day. See a little bus, that's us. So we put babies as young as 6 weeks old on this bus. So transportation, our facilities have been updated. So we have a place where children can be bathed if they need a bath. We have a place where we can wash their clothes if they need their clothes washed. We've had some families that have come to use our showers because if they're living in a shelter, they can't shower because they can't leave, they have to not leave their children unattended. So they've come and used our facilities. We've done the laundry for entire families at our facility if they don't have access to a washer and dryer. So we just have to think about some things that typical childcare programs don't have to think about. And even some of our policies have had to be kind of changed from typical childcare programs. Just like we ask people not to bring birthday invitations because it doesn't feel very good to tell your child you can't come to the party. But just kind of trying to think about all the barriers that families face in accessing high quality care. And we've tried to address those all of those barriers. So the next one is B for bonding, but I already told you I cheated, and it's actually attachment. A secure emotional attachment is actually the foundation for all future learning and growth. In the first 3 years, a child sets his mental models for how he sees himself, how he sees others, how he regulates stress, how he motivates and attends. So all of this is, the foundation of all of this is attachment. And attachment is also a buffer for children against adverse childhood experiences. So our model is very unique in that we focus very, very strongly on attachment. And one of the ways that we do this is we keep the same teacher with the same group of children for as long as possible. So the first little group of babies that enrolled with us back in 2015 graduated from our program last spring. They had never had a teacher change. They had the same teacher for that full time period. We also do a lot to help parents build attachments with their children. We have, before COVID, I should say, we had monthly family nights where we serve a meal. We have almost 100% attendance at our family nights because we focus so strongly on attachment with children and their parents, with us and the children, and us and the families. And so it's really like a celebration and a party every month. We do a little bit of parent training, but we really focus on helping parents bond and connect with their children and understand the importance of that. So I'm going to do a little bit, I have a little video here to show you about attachment. This is what attachment looks like. The attachment is actually built in moments of distress. So as you're watching this, I just want you to think about who do you run to in your moments of distress? So there it is. There's the attachment system at work, right? There's a distress and the little baby elephant runs for mama elephant. And that knowing who you run to is very crucial to development. I always like to say, who's your person? If a teacher comes to me and they've got an issue with a child, my first question is, who's their person? Who's this child's person? So we try to make sure that when a child is at school, he or she knows who their person is. And one of the things that we do is we invest heavily in our teachers, not just with salary and benefits, but also with professional development, because we want to retain the staff. In this field, there's an average, a 30% turnover rate. So you think about a child who's in childcare for 10,000 hours and they build a strong attachment with a teacher, and then that teacher leaves and the next one leaves and the next one leaves and the next one leaves. So we have done a lot to really curb that teacher turnover rate. We have very low turnover because we invest not just money in our staff, but also a ton of training. So that is one thing I think that sets us apart from other programs. And this is what the attachment cycle looks like. There's some kind of experience of distress. The child has some kind of distress. They're hungry, they're wet, they fall down, there's a loud noise. The attachment system is like an alarm that goes off and says, find your person. Hopefully that child receives an attuned response and the alarm gets turned off. And then the child can go back to doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is learning and playing and exploring. But in a lot of programs, that alarm never gets set off. There's actually been a lot of study done on stress level of children in group childcare systems, and they tend to be very stressed. Their cortisol levels rise during the day when they're stressed. And that is especially hard to do in traditional childcare to meet a child's needs when you've got the maximum amount of ratio. So like in a typical childcare center, 2 teachers could have 16 2-year-olds, 16 2.5-year-olds. Jerry Seinfeld says having a 2-year-old is like having a blender without a top. So if you can imagine 16 of them in one room with 2 teachers. So our ratios are really, really low. We have 3 teachers with 8 children until the age of 3. And then we have 3 teachers with 12 children. And just for reference, in a preschool program, you could have 2 teachers with 23-year-olds or 2 teachers with 24 4-year-olds. So we have 3 teachers with 12. And so you can see how much lower our ratios are than traditional childcare, but that's because we know that to actually connect and bond with these children, we have to have the time to get to know them. We have to be responsive to them. And so that's another way that we invest in our program and keep the turnover low, but also it's how we keep that alarm system deactivated so our children can do what they're supposed to be doing, which is learning and playing and growing. So the C is for conscious discipline. I know Erin said I was a conscious discipline instructor, and that probably means very little to most of you, but conscious discipline is a program that was formed in Florida by a woman named Dr. Becky Bailey. And as I was making plans to start the playing field, Dean Shim got me my project proposal out in front of a bunch of researchers from the UW. And one of them had it in his hand and he was really excited about it. And he said, you know what's great about this thing? And I was like waiting for some nugget about equality and fairness and equity. And he said, either it's going to succeed or it's going to fail. And either way, we need to know why. And I was like, oh my goodness, it was already terrifying enough to start a new program. And here this guy is telling me that I have a 50-50 chance of flopping. But what gave me the courage to believe that it could be done is Dr. Bailey's book called Creating the School Family. And she talks about how the traditional education system was kind of like a factory, right? This teacher gives this set of information, passes the kids along to the next teacher. But in a school family, every child can have their needs met, even if those needs are very different. And that was really what gave me the belief to think I can take care of children who are living in the best area of town, right alongside children who are experiencing homelessness. And I love that idea. If you have children of your own, more than one, right? What works with one doesn't work with another. What one needs, one doesn't care about. And so the traditional family where every child has their needs met is the basis for the school family model. And so another way that conscious discipline has supported us is with understanding behavior. One of the biggest barriers for children who have been impacted by trauma in terms of access to childcare is that their behavior usually gets them kicked out pretty quickly. We had a little guy who enrolled with us when he was 2. He was living in a shelter with his mom. And our mental health consultant came in with a little clicker, and she clicked every time the little guy was aggressive. She clocked 75 acts of aggression per hour. So he was 2 years old, and that behavior was very clearly saying, I'm stressed, right? I got a lot going on and I don't know what to do with all of this. But he would be quickly kicked out of most other programs. By the end of the year, when she came back, he was down to 2 acts of aggression per hour. So he went from 75 to 2, but still, if you think about an 8-hour day, he's still aggressive 16 times in a day. That's still probably going to get him kicked out of a lot of programs in our community. The the preschool expulsion rates are 4 times higher than the K-12 rates. In our country, 250 preschoolers are suspended or expelled every day. So that's why I say we do a ton of training with our staff, because they need really high-level skills to help children manage their emotions, to help children regulate their big feelings, and to help them learn different ways to express their feelings besides aggression. So that's another way that conscious discipline supports us. And this is kind of the difference in a nutshell between traditional discipline, right? Traditional discipline says you'll be accepted when your behavior is acceptable. Until then, go to timeout, go to the other classroom, go to another school. You'll be accepted when your behavior is acceptable. Conscious discipline says you are accepted. You're part of the school family, and now we're going to show you a different way to do it. So we had a little girl who enrolled with us when she was 4. It was November, and she'd already been kicked out of 2 4K programs. And her mom didn't tell us at the time, but she actually had been kicked out of every early childhood program she'd ever attended. And so the very first day she walks in, and there's this preschool pecking order, right? She kind of sizes up the room. She figures out who the toughest kid is, and she goes after him. And he has a toy in his hand, and she just snatched it out of his hand. And I walked up behind her and I put my hand on her shoulder, and she looked at me like, come on, lady, I'm going to take you out. And I said, you wanted a turn and you didn't know how to ask. And her whole body just relaxed, and her face was just saying, like, finally, somebody sees me as something other than a problem. So what behavior teaches, what conscious discipline teaches, is all behaviors communication. There's not good behavior or bad behavior. All behavior is giving us information. I had another little guy. I was doing a family tour. I was for one of my privately funded spots, and we walked into the classroom. It was right after Thanksgiving break, and the little guy latched onto me, and I was hugging him and playing with him. And then I said I needed to go, and he did not like that. And he started using the F word repeatedly. And he was quite skilled with using the F word. He could use it as a noun, a verb, an adjective. It was really impressive. And I kept saying to him, you want me to stay. You were hoping I could stay. Miss Sarah's going to keep you safe. I'll be back to see you later. Kept kind of comforting him. The teacher took him, and she was, saying to him, you were hoping Miss Abbi could stay. She'll be back to see you later. I'm going to keep you safe until she gets back. And so I finished the tour with the woman. And at the end, I said, do you have any questions? And her face was just kind of, she said, well, you didn't even address that child's language. And I said, I did address his language. I was addressing his intent. His intent was to tell me that he didn't want me to go, that he was angry because I couldn't stay. And I said, we'll teach him the words for that later, but right now we need to deal with the emotion. And she kind of looked at me like I was crazy, and she left. And I looked at my assistant and I said, well, we'll never see that one again. But actually she toured 5 centers, and she came back and said we were her favorite one. So I was like, well, you may be our people then, come on. So all behavior is communication. And that's one of the things that really is foundational to our success. And so especially with kids that have been impacted by trauma and early adversity, there's kind of like a car crash that's happening. It's kind of this connect with me, connect with me, connect with me. But wait a minute, connection is scary for me. So I'm going to slap you in the face. I'm going to hit you. I'm going to scratch you. I'm going to pull your hair. So our teachers do need a high level of skill for this. We've been recognized for our trauma-informed practices. Both Mrs. Walker and Mrs. Evers have toured. The Lieutenant Governor toured. We had a delegation from Norway come to see our trauma-informed practices, but really what they're looking at is conscious discipline. They're looking at this understanding that the child's behavior is communication, And our job is to regulate ourselves first so we can help children learn to regulate. And this is a quote from a book called Reaching and Teaching Children Impacted by Trauma by Dr. Barbara Sorrell. She's actually been to our center and trained our teachers as well. It says individuals who've been harmed in the context of relationship can only be healed in the context of relationships. And so we're trying to provide those supportive, secure attachments and beautiful relationships that offer healing to children who've had less than an ideal start. And so the good news is that our first center was successful. I did not fail, and I really want to go find that guy and let him know that. I hope he knows. I hope somebody told him. But we actually, in the middle of a pandemic, decided that we would start a second location. Kind of a long story, but we opened a new location on the east side of Madison in September. With funding from the United Way, Dane County, and the city of Madison, we are able to open a very small center. It only has space for 20 children. And at this time, all of those children are children who've been impacted by homelessness. There's a hotel right behind this center where about 60 families are staying. So we have opened that center on the east side. And our long-term goal for that space is that we will be moving to it was the old Menards building that was on East Springs Boulevard. They moved it to Sun Prairie, I believe. But that building was purchased by the Plumbers Union, and they approached us. They wanted to have childcare for their members. And I told them I would love to partner with them, but only if they were interested in allowing me to replicate my model. So they were all about it. So we want to have a similar enrollment model. We'll have 15,000 square feet of space, a very similar enrollment model to what we have, but we're partnering with the Road Home and the Plumbers Union. So we're going to be able to offer not just childcare, but the Road Home has a housing development, and the Plumbers Union will provide a place where our families can get job training. And so we're offering that all in a coordinated effort. And one of the things that we want to do, because we do have so many visitors and so many people that want to come and see our model, we want to have observation areas where people can observe without causing more disruption to children. Strangers are really hard for our kids, so our building is beautifully designed to allow people to observe without interrupting the classroom. And that will allow us to offer more training to other providers who want to learn about trauma-sensitive practices. And so that's kind of our model. I don't know if you have, I think we have plenty of time for questions. If you want to get involved or help in any way, here are some ways that you can help. We are starting a capital campaign right now, and we're kind of building that committee. We have to raise the money to remodel our space. And also after questions, I have a video that kind of takes you through a day in the life at the playing field. So I'm going to just ask right now if anybody has questions.
What does volunteering look like during COVID?
Volunteering during COVID is very interesting. Even when it's not COVID, we're very selective about allowing people to volunteer in the classrooms. You have to make a regular commitment because we want kids to develop a relationship with volunteers. But during COVID, there could be office type things that need to be done. Our new space actually needed a lot of work. And so we scheduled people to come when, there was no one else in the building and they could do different things. I think that there'll probably be a lot of paperwork that needs to be done as part of our capital campaign. So I think those are some of the opportunities that could exist. When it gets spring, we're actually working on a sensory playground that will help children with their big emotions. And so we will be looking for people to help install equipment. And as I said, that could all be scheduled when there weren't other people around. So there was no risk of spreading COVID.
I may have missed it, but how many children do you have at your Mineral Point Road location?
We have 52 there. We have five classrooms in that building.
Okay.
And the new location will have space for 100, so it'll almost triple our capacity.
What do you think of the 5-star or the star system of evaluating daycare centers, childcare centers?
Honestly, I don't think the requirements are high enough for 5 stars. I think it should be higher. The standards should be higher for 5 stars. The truth is, if you're making money in childcare, you're doing it wrong. That's my honest opinion. I probably would make a lot of people angry by saying that, but that's my honest opinion. I don't think this is a money-making industry. And I think the typical ratios don't meet the needs of any children. It's not just children impacted by trauma. They don't meet the need of any child. When you have 2 teachers with, 12 children, everybody has to bathroom at the same time. Everybody has to take a drink of water at the same time. It's just, how would we all feel if we were all herded together for 8 or 10 hours and all told when we could go to the bathroom, when we could drink water, when we could sit down, when we could, it would be horrible. And so I think that they're well intended, but I think that we need to always be pushing for better.
How many teachers do you have at Mineral Point?
Lead teachers, we have 2 lead teachers in each classroom, so 10. And then we have 1 assistant teacher in each classroom. So our lead teachers work the open and closing shift, and the assistant teacher works in the middle of the day. So for most of the day, there's 3 people there, but we're open for 11 hours. So obviously we don't make them work 11 hours a day. But the lead teachers open and close, so parents can always talk to a lead when they drop off or pick up.
Abby, I really like your model. I had one question for the teachers to retain them. Are your salaries competitive with the public schools or with other similar programs? So
we are we're very competitive with other childcare programs. We're not quite to the public school level, though that's definitely our goal. We do lose some good applicants to the public schools, and we want to do better for our teachers, but the salaries are really competitive. We give a good amount of paid time off, way more than most childcare programs are able to give. We also have a retention bonus. So we ask teachers to sign a commitment that they're going to stay for the full school year, because it's just the worst when, it's January and somebody's like, oh, I want to go, work at, I don't know, the mall. So we have a retention bonus where teachers can get a bonus for staying for their full commitment. We also have we give a holiday bonus, and that's always based on your years of service. And this year we were able to add a retirement. So we're really excited to be able to start offering that.
Where do the children go that are kicked out of other preschool programs?
They typically end up just going from childcare to childcare until they enter the school system. And it's pretty awful. There's a really good conscious discipline video. If you want to watch it, it's called How to Make a Bully from Scratch. And it talks about how we systematically build bullies, right? By excluding them, by really saying to them, what I tell early childhood teachers is what do we teach? What's our subject? What we really are teaching is how to human, right? That's what we're teaching, how to human. And when we say to a child, you can come to class, or you can come play, or you can come to our school when you know how to play better, or you know how to be nicer, is really like the math teacher saying you can come to math class when you know how to do math better, right? We're teaching those foundational skills, how to ask for a turn, how to get your needs met appropriately, how to negotiate conflict. All of those, life lessons are what we're teaching. And how do we teach those lessons when really the strategy for most childcare programs is I can get the same money for a kid who doesn't hit, kick, and spit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Are you 7 days a week?
No, just 5. Yeah, we're just 5 days a week. Our long-term goal is to provide weekend and night care. We just haven't been able to figure out how we would staff or fund that at this time. But I'll keep working at it.
Do you work with foster families and human services?
Yeah, we actually have a lot of kids that come to us through the foster care system, and we get a lot of referrals. We had this little kid that came to us a couple years ago. He'd been in 3 foster homes within 10 days. And he had been separated from his younger brother and sister, but there was a social worker who was following up with him and his siblings. And she said, it's like he hit the lottery. And I said, what do you mean? Like, this kid doesn't seem like a lottery winner to me right now. And she said, to be able to find a center that understands his trauma at this point in his life is so rare. It's like a lottery win.
Abby, do you work with the parents then so that this model can be extended into their homes?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that COVID has really killed. At our monthly family nights, we always did what I called like a conscious discipline mini lesson. We never wanted our family nights to be like a, hey, come in here and sit down and listen to me talk kind of thing, right? We wanted people to actually want to attend, but we would give them enough conscious discipline that they wanted more. And depending on the family and their needs decided how we delivered that. So for some families, it was so intense that I would just go right into their home and do one-on-one with the parent. Other ones, we would group them together in like groups of 3 or 4 and maybe do like a series of 7 classes. But we always left them, kind of the goal of the family night was to leave everybody wanting more. And that's one thing that COVID has really kind of crushed is our ability to gather like that. And it's pretty sad. Our staff really miss it. So we're trying to kind of think of some other ways. We've tried some stuff on Zoom, but most of our funded families are just not Zoomers. They're not interested in the virtual. They really need the face-to-face contact. And we haven't found a good way to deliver that safely. Okay, I think you said I'm done at 1:10, so my video is 5 minutes. If you have more questions, you can always email me. You can find me through our website. It's playingfieldmadison.org. But I just want to say thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to introduce you to our school family.
So each morning at the playing field, we go to pick up children who have either no transportation or are using alternate living, such as living out of their vehicle or at the Salvation Army. We put anyone from 6 weeks old to age 5 on the bus.
We celebrate these children. When the bus rolls up, everybody comes out, everybody greets the children, everybody welcomes the children. And I hope that they leave here knowing every day that they're valuable. And everything in our environment is geared towards sending that message. You're valuable, your family's valuable, your work and your ideas are valuable in this space. So happy you're here. All of our interactions with children are geared towards that message. And I hope that's what they leave with every day. Good morning to you. Good morning.
Then I have 2 little boys that go in. It ain't a lot, but they look forward to their bus coming to get them every. I came here to Madison and we were staying in the Salvation Army. So with me working and I need daycare. And it's just love. When you walk in the room, it's love. You know, for a parent like me who came with nothing to nothing, I greatly appreciate all that they do here.
Do you want to hold my hand? That would make you feel safe.
They're not just watching my kids, you know, they interact in our personal lives too. What's being taught here, it comes home.
We love the teachers, we love the program. It was a huge draw that there was a lot of diversity here and that people from all walks of life brought their kids here, and we thought that would be something really important for our son to grow up and appreciate as well.
Can you hear me? Yeah! Can you hear me now? They're just kids. Our kids are all, you know, the same, and sometimes they're happy and sometimes they're not, and it doesn't matter where they're from. It just seems silly that you would think that it would be harder for your child to go to school with kids that aren't, you know, financially as well off as you. They're just kids.
This place is built to bring people together, to bring our staff together, to bring our children together, to branch out and start bringing our community together. That parents are getting to know each other. We have family fun nights so that the parents can see the children interact with each other. They can interact with each other. They get a chance to get to know us. It's really a school family here.
When I first walked through y'all doors, I was embraced with love. I mean, everybody done got a strong support team. I know I don't. This is my support team. It's all I got. But most of all, we appreciate it. I know I appreciate it. Because I think I'll be a loss without this family right here.
Let's go out. Yeah, that one looks like you.
One of the unique challenges about bringing children in who are experiencing trauma and uncertainty in their lives is the behaviors that they come with. Some of the kids come in extremely aggressive, defiant, challenging, and our teachers need really specific skills to address those challenges, and we do that through conscious discipline.
Good morning, Alex. I promise to keep you safe today.
And with conscious discipline, what we learn is that my need for safety is first. And once I know I'm safe, my next need is to be loved and connected, and then I can learn. Then my next question is, what can I learn? And as educators, we always want children to show up and say, what can I learn today, teacher?
How does the apple from the tree get in there?
And I don't know if it's a training they doing or what, but all of them got that hard. And if it's anything that we can do as a community to expand this, I think we should.
We're not going to be able to solve all their problems. We're not going to be able to cushion all the blows that they're going to face in life.
Oh, I know what game you want to play. Bye. Bye. Bye, Abby. Bye, buddy. Did you have fun today?
But what we are able to do is build resiliency in them.
Want to see Mommy? We're going on the bus.
And give them some skills to use that they wouldn't have had if they didn't have a program like this.
Mwah.
What a
So-
great video.
Thanks.
Pretty impressive when you get to see teachers kissing babies on the forehead and, just real love there and real care. That's just so heartwarming.
Thanks.
Well, thank you so much for presenting to our club. Our club does make a donation to the End Polio Now campaign, which is the worldwide effort all Rotarians support. So we do that in honor of our speakers that present to us. And then what do we have to look forward to next week, Erin?
Yeah, so next year, January 4th, our speaker is, going to be Mitch Paquette. So he is a Global Grant Scholar, and he is going to be introduced by Lois Smith, who is our Global Scholars Grant Chair for District 6250. And Mitch is going to be talking to us about his experience as a Global Scholar. A Rotary Global Scholar. So tune in on January 4th for that, and see you guys next year.
See you next year. Bye.
Thanks, Abby.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
Thank you.